everyone. If you downloaded the files from the GitHub link and installed Flutter, you should have this project structure. As you can see, these files are all pretty much opened here. Some of them are empty though, so you should have a file structure like this, and if you go ahead and run it, you'll see things like this. Welcome page. Definitely, of course, you can click this button here, get started, and it'll take you to a new page where you can sign in. But for now we can't sign in because we don't have the credentials. Okay, and this sign in would be connected to our backend and server, so the information would be saved to the database directly. But the first thing we want to do is show here like a slide and information and a text like what you have seen earlier in this video in the demo section. Okay, so we want to display some text information here, but this information should be coming from our backend where we type in the information and app receives this information and show it here. Okay, all right, so that's what we want to do. So now let's go ahead and see our backend. So if you installed the backend from GitHub link, then you should have this backend page where you have different menus. Okay, I already have done this for you guys, so you can just go ahead and install it. But if you're having problem installing, you can leave a comment below. I will try to reply you. But at the same time, don't forget to execute this commands on your terminal. Okay, and at the same time, your env file should have a configuration, basic configuration, like your database name, username and password. That's what you have to do, and it should be in your env file. And if you don't have one env file, you can just create one. All right, and after that you should run these commands on the terminal one by one. Okay, and your backend should be up and running. I also keep the link for this commands in the description section so that you can find and run these commands. Okay, and once you're done with the command, you will have a backend like this. Okay, where you can have different menus. Okay, like we can click on this user section. Of course, we don't have any users. We can click on the article sections. We don't have articles, article types, dashboard, and many different things like this. Okay, all right. Now, well, I have also created a video how to create this backend, a very simple video. So you can go ahead and check it out if you want to use Laravel as your admin panel. And I find this panel is pretty convenient and easy to use. Okay, anyway, so the first thing we want to do, we want to create article type. Okay, so we need to go ahead and create a new article type, and we'll call it welcome. Okay, the article type, and that's all we need to do. We don't need to put any description, and then we'll submit it. Okay, so it says save succeed, so it worked. Now we'll go ahead and create our first article. Okay, so to create an article, just click here, new. All right, and we'll select the type of our article, the category type or article type. Okay, so it's a welcome, and well, title say welcome, it doesn't matter though. So author said Dylan. These information are not necessary for welcome page. All right, so basic description, so let's go ahead and this one. So we love Flutter and Laravel. Okay, you must learn it to do rapid web and app development like this. Okay, this is the basic information we want to put in, and this is the information actually we'd be showing on our app section over here. Okay, so next what do we need to do? We need to submit this. Okay, well, it already saved over here, as you see the basic information. This is another settings, it doesn't matter though. Yes, well, now, so that's the backend thing is done. All right, now we can go ahead and run our app. Now let's see what happens. all right, nothing happens. Well, the thing we need to do, we need to find our welcome page, which is this one. So this is the welcome page. Okay, so go ahead and find your welcome page, and if you have this welcome page, it should look like this. And as you see, welcome page is this background image, so this is the background image. Okay, all right. And now we need to get the data. So to get the data, we need to have an API, and this is the API. And if you install this Flutter files correctly, you should have this API file over here. Okay, everything is there. All right, so let's see where we have this file called get public data. Okay, all right, so this is here. We have this function called init file, init data, and it calls a function from our class API. It's called get public data, and then we send the router or the API to get information. All right, and then it calls a function over here, get public data, but currently this function is empty, and that's what we need to write. All right, so that's what we get here. We created an HTTP response object, and we pass the URL and API URL. Now we have this URL here, and this is the base URL for our server. So in our case, in my case, this is the base URL and API. Well, for your case, it could be any domain name or your localhost/API, because in Laravel, every API is saved in API folder. So we can go ahead and check it out over here. All right, so in Laravel, if you install the backend, you'll see there is a folder called route, and in the route we have this API file .php, and over here we have saved our router to get the API request. So what happens over here, so it takes this base URL first and then API, and after that, whatever the function we call, it finds that. Okay, and that function should receive a URL, short URL from the page where we call it. In this case, this is called welcome info. So welcome info is passed down from here to here, and then together it becomes your base URL plus the short URL, and then it creates a request from the server. Okay, yeah, and when it creates a request from the server, first it comes to this file. Okay, and then it finds this router, which is welcome info, and once that's happened, then it finds a controller which is called articles controller, and the controller is over here, this one. Okay, and with that article controller, we have a function which is called welcome info. So this is the welcome info. All right, and welcome info also calls another function which is called get welcome info, which is coming from our article model, which is this one, get welcome info. This is the function that is get called. All right, yeah, so eventually when this get called, it connects with our database, and which is this one. Let's see what we have so far in our database. All right, so in our database we have a type, which is article type, and the ID is 5, and for that article we have over here this description section. Okay, so that's what we have here. So we created an article type, and for that article type we have created one entry in the database, and this is saved over here. So now what we need to do, and we already did, okay, we have connected this one, and which calls our API over here, and then eventually it gets called from the back end. Now as you see here, we have this type ID, and this type ID is related to our database ID. In our case, let's see what is in our case, the type ID is 5, as you can see, and that's what we are going to change in our articles controller. Let's go ahead and change it. All right, now once we save it, let's come to our Android Studio and let's run this again. All right, so looks like nothing is happening. Okay, the reason because it's not happening, well, we have this response now. It goes back to the server, takes the info, and after that we should display it. And before we display it, we should decode it. Okay, and after decoding, we save it to an article list. Okay, and which should be in your file as well. Article list is article info type, and article info is a model for our data, as you'll see from here. Let's see, this is the file. Okay, so this is a model for our data. Okay, so which this is what describes our data and the field they should have, and they have like that. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and check it out. So now we have this variable which contains the information that is given back from the server, and then we decoded them. Okay, and saved it over here. All right, okay, now let's go ahead and run it, and let's see what do we see here. Okay, perfect. So this is the first information that we have from our backend. All right, so to verify that it's coming from backend, we can go ahead and change the backend information. So you can come here and click edit. All right, you should be able to edit, and we can add more information. Okay, say Flutter is the way to go. All right, so I've done it, and now let's submit it. Okay, now go to our app and refresh it. Okay, or let's restart. So it should get a new call from our server, as you see. So now Flutter is the way to go. So that's what I have updated at the back end. All right, now this section should be scrollable, which is not, because we don't have more information. So we want to create more information. Before we go ahead and create more information and we would be able to scroll, so we need to do a few tweak over here, this section. Okay, so right now it's 3, that's why it is showing 3 over here. So we want default as 1. Okay, so now only 1, but as we get more and more information from the backend, and which is saved in our article list. Okay, so from this list we can count the number of post we have, welcome post or welcome info, and then save it. All right, so how to do that? So we can call total dots equal articles dot length. That's all we need to do. Okay, so whatever the information, let's see, we might have, okay, so we need to change the type. Instead of final, we can call it var, because we are going to change it. Final means which it doesn't change ever. Anyway, so now it takes the articles and find the length and increase the dot indicator. Okay, so as we have more articles, so we'll see more and more dots. All right, so now of course we can rerun the application, and there's still only 1 dot because we have only 1 post. Okay, so now we can go to the back end over here and create multiple information. All right, so now once again, type ID is welcome, say second one, well, for welcome page it's not important though. The name and other information, they are not really important because we are not showing anything else. All right, so let's go ahead and just copy some of them. All right, and let's see how it looks like. So let's go ahead and paste it there. Okay, now we'll save it. All right, and it's already saved. So now we go to find our app over here, restart the app. All right, so now we have 2 welcome info or messages. As you can see, we have done this one and this one. This is the first one, and this is the second one we did. So we want 1 more post over here. All right, having 3. Okay, and again, type is welcome. Welcome, it doesn't matter, title could be anything. This information you can keep empty, because only thing we are showing in our app this content, article content. All right, okay, perfect. So now let's go to our app and let's rerun it. Okay, so this is the one we posted at last, and this is the second one, and this is the third one. So as you increase more and more post, welcome post here, you will see more of them. So what happened here, let me walk you through. So this is the init data function, and which gets called when this file welcome page initiated or initialized. And then it creates a function call which is called get public data, and which is in our API function. Okay, and this sends a route, and route's name is welcome info, and it takes over here route name, and then with the base URL together, this URL is sent to our server, and our server, the backend over here, the server backend, our API sits over here. Okay, so welcome info is the router, and then it calls welcome info, another function. This function lives in our controller, which is called articles controller, and then it calls another function which is called get welcome info, but this function is coming from our article model. Okay, and which is this one, and over here it checks what type of ID we want to show and receive from the database and send it back. So that's what it does. So far we have done 3, you can do more. All right, so it takes the first 3, and so that's all about this welcome info page. All right, okay, and then once the welcome info page you are satisfied with, then you can get started and do a sign up page. Okay, so now what happens with sign up? Let's say email address a.com and say password 123. Let's save it. So invalid email or password, that happens because we don't have our information saved in the database. We can go ahead and check our database. In our database, the user information is this section. Okay, as you can see from this table, it's totally empty, no user information. All right, so that's why it can't get information from the database and show this message that nothing is there, or invalid password, or maybe the user doesn't exist. All right, so this is our welcome page. Okay, sorry, sign in page. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sign in page, and which should be in your folder, like over here. All right, okay, so this is the sign in page, and you can go through it. It should be pretty straightforward and easy. All right, yeah, the only thing we have here that connects with our backend and API, which is logic login, this function. Well, this function also again gets called when we press on this button over here. All right, and it tries to collect this information from our text field and save them in these 2 variables. Okay, or sorry, in this 2 key, because this is an object type, in this 2 key, and then using that key which is saved in data variable, and we send an API request to our API, I would say, and it uses a function called post data. We call it post data because we are trying to take this information and post it to the server, so that's why we call it post data. All right, and now again, as just now we saw earlier, this post data, this function lives in our API file, and this API file has a function called post data, which is this one. So data and with our API URL. So what is our API URL? Our API URL is let's see, login. Okay, so it takes this route, and which is given to this parameter over here, and the data, this data is coming from here. Okay, and then we create an HTTP request and send it to the server, and at the same time we create a token before we send it. This token is created down over here. All right, so this token is created to save user information in our device. All right, okay, next So this data we post it to the server. Okay, so this complete URL. And now let's take a look at the server or the backend code, which is our articles API over here. Well, as you can see from this API file, we have this login router over here, which is a post request, and it calls a function called login. So let's go ahead and find it. This is in user controller, and this is the login request. But at the same time, you see that in general, logging is coming from our register function, and register function calls this login. Of course, you can call login if the register has been done. I mean, the user has registered already. If not, user should go ahead and register first, and register would call login function. Okay, so that's why now we'll see how to create the register page or sign up page. Now we'll go ahead and create the sign up page. To create the sign up page, first we'll copy the code from SignIn Page, copy the return section with scaffold, and then put it into our sign up page and just copy paste. All right, and after copy pasting we might have some error. Let's go ahead and fix them quickly. Instead of text controller, we'll call it pass controller, and we also don't need this hint and hint over here. We don't need them. At the same time, for name, we don't want for email, we don't want obscure text. This is used for password, you know, where you show the star when someone types in password. So we'll put it false over here. All right, and at the same time we want to copy paste this. Okay, so instead of email, the first one would be name, and over here instead of email controller we can have name controller. All right, and for password we'll have double fields, so we can just copy paste it, and over here we'll call it repass controller. Okay, and I guess we also need to change things up at the top over here. I think yes, we are good. Yeah, we are good. We don't need to make changes there. And let's see, instead of login we'll call it register. Well, the register code is in the file, in this sign up file, which you should have once you downloaded with the link from the GitHub. So let's take a look at this register function. Okay, so it takes user input and put them in data. Okay, and after putting them in data, it calls an API request, which is post data. Post data takes a router, which is register router. We can take a look at our post data function, which is this one, and it creates an HTTP request and send the request to the server, and the server over here in our API file, it finds the same router that has been sent from Flutter, which is register. Okay, and then it calls a function, register function, in user controller, and this is the controller, and the controller itself has this function register, which we created, and it passed down the password and other credentials. Especially we take care of the password, we encrypt the password and then create a record using this one in the database, and after that we pass the request information to the login function, and login function again tries to authenticate this information, which tries to take the email and password from the database, and then if it can find and match the credential, then it returns a response back to the browser. Sorry, not the browser, to our Flutter app. Okay, so this response is returned over here in this body section. So in sign up page, in body section, we check if we have success information. This one, success is this. Success means over here we have to be true, right? If we have this one, then we go to article page, and that's all it is happening over here. So now let's go ahead and save this, and let's see what happens. Okay, all right. So one more time, let's go ahead and restore everything from the scratch. Okay, all right. Now this is our sign-in page, but we don't have any information over here. We can try to log in like this, whatever information you can use. Sign in. Well, we don't have this information, so we can go to sign up page. Okay, well, in sign up page it has this overflow, so we can fix the overflow very easily. Let's come down to our body section of scaffold, and we have too much space, so let's reduce the space. Instead of 0.1 we can do 0.05, and over here it's the same. Now let's save it. Perfect. Okay, now instead of writing sign in here, we need to have sign up. Okay, and then over here, instead of doing sign up, we should do sign in. Okay, let's refresh it. Okay, perfect. Okay, now we can try to create a user. So Dylan, and say my email is a@a.com. say password 123. Let's go ahead and sign up. All right, so it takes us a page like this. Okay, so that's where we go. Now next we'll take a look how we create this page and the information layout and the API request to the server. Well, earlier we saw once you sign up, it takes you to a page like this, and this page is actually coming from our register function. Remember the register function, this one? Okay, if the API call is successful, it takes the information from the server and then it forward us to a new page which is called article page. And this page I already have done the coding, which is over here. And the code you have downloaded from the GitHub, it doesn't have all this information, so you need to follow along with me. I'll walk you through step by step. Well, and in this file I have imported some of the other files, but you need to import them step by step as we go ahead. First, we have created two variables for putting our data from the server request, and two different data, so we'll have two different lists. And then we have this get articles, and within get articles we have this few lines. We are not using them now, but in future in the tutorial we'll use them. Anyway, next we call another function which is called init data, and within init data we use two API requests. One using the router called recommended articles, the other one is all articles, and they go through the same function which is called get public data. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. So once again, get public data is down over here. Okay, so what do? We pass down these two routes. Of course it happens one by one. Okay, these two routes to our API file, and API file then creates HTTP request. Later on this request comes over here in our API function, which I already done this routes over here. So as you can see, recommended articles and all articles, they are all in articles controller. So let's go ahead and take a look. First, see the function get recommended. So get recommended, this is the function. This is pretty much the earlier one, which is called welcome info. Okay, but only difference is that instead of calling get welcome info, we are calling get recommended, and get recommended is a function in our model. So let's take a look what it does. So get recommended is this one, and as you see, we use the recommended flag, which is 1. Okay, we use this one, and we also use order by descendants. And this recommendation 1 is done when you create a new article. Okay, and you submit it from the back end. So let's go ahead and check the back end. Say for example, I want to create a new article. Okay, and say the type is new books or any type, it doesn't matter. Okay, I would say America. All right, title say Bush. All right, he was a president, right? And then we will have some random information. Well, for now, what we could do, let's see, just say we copy paste some of the information from here, okay, and paste them down. All right, and over here, once you click on this, on the back end, recommend equal 1 is submitted to the database. All right, okay. Of course, we can change it, this one. We also need to upload an image, which we didn't do early. Okay, let's say we want to upload this image. All right, okay, and then we resubmit it. Just now we forgot to upload the image, so submit it. But anyway, so as you see, if an article is recommended, it is over here. The tag is like blue, okay, or green, I would say. All right, so one more thing though, if you want to try to upload an image and if it doesn't work, most of the time it is the permission problem. So what you have to do, come over here in your Laravel project and find public uploads, which you should have. If you don't have this file, you need to create and then create another folder which is called images, and then create file attributes. Go over there and try to give information, sorry, give permission like 775 or 777 like this, okay, and do it in a recursive way, which I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again. All right, so if you have image uploading problem, this is mostly the permission problem, and which you need to change from here. All right, so that's what we have done just now. And now let's go back to our API. So because we have done the recommended, so recommended flag is 1, which is saved in the database. All right, and we take the first 3. All right, so that's what we are doing. And another request we had from article page, which is called all articles. So all articles, again, the API is this one, and it calls a function all articles. All articles is over here. Again, these two are pretty much same. The only difference is over here. Okay, so let's take a look at this function in the model. So all articles is this one. All it does, it takes all the articles that's in the database, okay, and then it's the request response back to the Flutter. All right, okay, that's what is happening here. So anyway, so after these 2 calls, we have request from the request to the server and response from the server. And once the response is given, we take the body section from the response and we go through it as a map and save them in a variable called articles. And for all articles, we save them in a variable called all articles. And for recommended, we save them in all articles, this variable. So 2 different variables. So right now, after this initialization, which happens right when we call this page, right after when we call this page from sign up page, so all the data is initialized over here. Okay, all right, so that's all about the data initialization. Well, just now we take a look at the API request, which were this in init data function, and now we'll take a look about the layout of this page. The code you downloaded from GitHub, it doesn't have this section, so let me walk you through. First, container. Well, this container is responsible for showing these 2 icons over here, and they're pretty simple, as you can see from the code. Just 2 icons we have used, and we used them in a row, and we used a space between so that we can push them to the end of the screen, and the color, that's all. And after that, we have sized box to create distance between this one and this icon. And the next one is another container, and this container used for showing this one. And at the same time, we have used expanded and child container so that it takes the rest of the empty space and push it to the left. And we also applied a left padding so that we can align. And after that, we have this sized box again between these 2. Okay, and then we have this container, and this container is a search bar, and this search bar is plugin which I have downloaded, and it should be in your ymal.spec file. You should check it out, but it should be there. And what else? Next we have this container, and this container is responsible for showing these two items over here. The first one is a text, and this text is using our text widget, and text widget is this one, just for simple decoration of text. It should be in your file as well when you download it from GitHub. And after that, for showing these two items, we used a row. Okay, and within this row we have used a button. Button is responsible for showing this one, and we also have applied basic style, as you can see, size and color. Okay, and let's see the next one. So the next is sized box for creating some distance. Okay, and after that we have another container, and this container is basically responsible for showing everything happens over here. Okay, well, this one we used a page builder because we want to be able to scroll, but as we don't have many images and content, so we can't scroll it right now. We'll see it later that we can scroll it. And we also use viewport fraction 0.9, so that means it should not occupy the whole screen. You see, it leaves the screen over here, and there is a default padding or margin, you can understand, that it creates from page controller. And at the same time we count that how many articles or books we have, and then because we want to be able to click on it, so we use this gesture detector over here, and once we click on this, we'll go to a new page. Well, we'll deal with this new page a little later. It doesn't matter. If you are following along, you can keep it empty, it doesn't matter though. And after that, we also have this circular progress indicator. This is in Flutter directly, so you can just call it. It shows this circular indicator if your article length is 0 or no articles or no books there. And after that, we have used this position widget. The reason we use a position widget because we want to put this few things on the top of each other. So as you can feel like, actually there are two cards over here. This is one card and the picture is the other card, so we are putting them onto each other, so that's why we use a positioned widget. And because at the same time we want for this card over here, we want to create shadow, so that's why you use a material container, and we have given them box decoration and box shadow. So this first positioned widget, this one is responsible for drawing this card, this white card, right? Okay, so now we'll take a look at next position widget, and this position widget is responsible for drawing this image on the top of this card. As you can see, we mentioned the top area and the left area, and as again, this is a card, and this card contains an image. So this is our image, and this image is actually wrapped with box decoration to create a little shadow. As you can see, the image itself has a little shadow, and this is a network image, so you use network API. And at the same time, we show the image from our server request, and the request has saved information as a response in articles, which we saw earlier. All right, okay, and next, this is the another positioned widget, but this position widget is for showing this text on a certain position, because you have to see that this is taking some space and then this part is taking other spaces, so it's more like they're all colliding onto this card. So I have used a 3 positioned widget. The first one is for drawing the big card, second one is the image, and third one is for them. All right, there could be many different ways you could do it. This is I've tried. I'd like to try many different ways. Okay, and this is responsible for showing our text information. the book's name, author's name, and basic description of the book. So this is the last widget, positioned widget we used. So over here actually we have 3 positioned widgets. So let me collapse them over here. So this is the last one, and this was the second one, which is responsible for image, and this is for the big card on the background. Okay, all right. Okay, and once again, because we want to be able to click on them, so that's why we have this material page route. Would be able to click them later, so just leave it there. If you're following along, you just pass here null, or just remove this part of the code. That's okay too if you don't want to click right now. All right, so that was for this whole container, using this container thing. All right, next we have the other container, and next container is pretty much like this one. It shows information, text information, and buttons like this over here. It should be pretty easy, simple, and self-explanatory. We have on press event, but we are not doing anything with this. Okay, and the last one is this one, and this one actually for scrollable, because sometimes your image might be much bigger, the height, so that's why we use expanded widget, and within it we have a child that has single child scrollable view, because you just want to scroll one child, not the whole page. So in that case you wrap things around single child scrollable view. And of course within it we have container, and this container we have used as list view builder. Okay, with list view builder you can scroll left and right like this. Okay, this is this could be also done through page view builder, but they are slightly different. Page view builder doesn't really take, well, if you have page view builder, it's difficult to apply padding and margin, but with list view builder you can apply padding and margin very easily. So that's my experience though. And of course over here we are passing a different list which we received from the server, and it should have information. It doesn't have, it's null. If it's null, then we set it to 0. If we have, then we continue in a loop. So this loop again, it's within in the loop we are using gesture detector, because we want to be able to click on them. All right, yes, I think we have this section. Yes, so actually for showing the image itself and the box and things like that, and card, as you can see. Okay, yeah, so once again we have this circular progress indicator. You can skip it if you want. And after that we have this container. Okay, this container is responsible for wrapping everything there, and this container is scrollable, because remember we are scrolling because we have this one, single child scroll view. Okay, and after that we set the height and width for our container. All right, okay, and after that we have the card. The first card is for showing our image, this image, and it also has a little bit border and shadow. Cards in general, they have shadow because they have elevation, and this path is our image path, and image path is given from our API call request, which is saved in this list, which we saw early. And of course if you're working with your own URL, so you need to replace this with your own project URL, so you don't need to follow mine. And then after that we have this text widget for showing the title and author's name. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Okay, so just a basic style that I have applied over here. All right, now we'll see how to load a new article and show it to the recommended section. So we'll see how to do that. Go ahead and create a new article. and create you can pick well, now actually what we could do, we could create a new article type. Let's go ahead and do it. Call it, say, mind, and description could be mind-blowing or anything, whatever you want, doesn't matter. So you created a new category, and now based on this category we'll create a new article. So let's go ahead and do that. Choose the article type is mind, and the title, say, mind-boggling, I think. Author, say, George. Description, all about mind, and put a little bit of information there. And let's so it's all about mind. So let's pick up this image. All right, and now we want to put in our recommended section over here, so that's why I put it on. Okay, now let's submit it and save succeeded. Now what we'll do, we'll restart our app. Okay, let's see if we see the result we wanted. Okay, so well, these are the information coming from backend. I'll get started. Well, now it's asking me to log in. Well, earlier I made a credential which was a.com, and my password was 123. So let's sign in. Perfect. Yeah, so this is the new article that we have posted just now, and it's at the same time it is here because remember, here we are showing all the articles in our database. All right, so perfect. And now we can also able to scroll this thing. All right, yeah, so we can do different things right now. Okay, perfect. To be able to click on this and go to a new page, let's go ahead and click. Well, everything is showing as we wanted. Well, we have some problem. Oh, it's not a problem though, it's just a random message. Let's see, mind-boggling, this is the latest one. Perfect, but the image is not showing. So let's go ahead and find the file, and this file is detail book, this one. All right, so you should have it in your GitHub project file, the one you downloaded. The only reason the image is not showing, most probably for this one. So the base URL, let me change it and restart it. Yes, perfect, so it's there. Let's go ahead and check on this. Yes, perfect. And about another article, this one. Yes, perfect. So we have things showing up everywhere and the design we wanted. And next we will see how to do this design and how we did that.